So you know those falling dreams that you get every once in a while where you're kinda just falling endlessly? Well, I had a really memorable one not too long ago. The thing is though, when I went back to try and remember it, to write it down as a starting story for this video, I realized the best analogy I could come up with to describe it is what you would get if you were to combine the psychedelic boat scene from Willy Wonka with those really old Minecraft videos about the dropper. Like, I have no clue why those were the first two things I thought of, but they just fit so perfectly it's almost poetic. Thanks to my previous video on dreams, I now know a lot more about them than I used to, but when it comes to actually interpreting them, let's just say I don't really want to know what's going on inside of my head. If you remember from my previous dreams video, I mentioned that the main reason I made the video in the first place was because I had a really weird and creepy dream that I thought would be interesting. And if you haven't already been able to pick up on the context clues, that's what this video is about as well. And before you say anything, no, I don't think any of these dreams I've had can be considered nightmares. I know that by definition, a nightmare is just a creepy or unpleasant dream, but compared to some of the ones I've had, it's hard for me to consider this series of dreams qualified. So let's set the stage. I start out this dream in third-person perspective, as if I was kinda watching a YouTube video or something. I was watching over this wide expanse of creepy sky with what I interpreted to be a gas station in the corner of the video, I guess. Inside of this gas station was a deli, as well as a grocery store, which somehow made sense in the dream universe. I don't know. The grocery store part might have actually been a library, I'm not entirely sure, but what matters is that there was a shelf, and a middle-aged lady using the shelf to help her snort cocaine. The camera pans over to me, and apparently I'm Violet from The Incredibles. Oh yeah, this is also where the story switches into first person, by the way. I was starting to get this really ominous feeling, like the villain had finally found where I was hiding. So I just started booking it for some reason away from the gas station. And wouldn't you know it, right then this alien spaceship that vaguely resembled Stakataka from Pokemon Sun and Moon, according to the notes I wrote down after waking up, started hovering down from the sky. It was pretty much an alien invasion, and dozens of plane-like thingies started shooting around the place, murdering anything in sight. There's also this really weird thing going on with the gravity, but I guess I'll get to that later. Anywho, back to me running, I was now running through this almost entirely pitch black neighborhood, passing by street lamps and dozens of the exact same house, which was pretty creepy, but it was probably just because my brain couldn't manage to come up with more than one house design. It's a surprisingly common issue for me. For whatever reason, I got this weird feeling that, as long as I made it past this one street lamp up ahead, I would have made it out of the weird gravitational force field thingy. But right then, dozens of planes surrounded me and started attacking, trying to knock me out so that they could capture me. And now all of a sudden, everything is in action movie mode and the stakes are rising. Everything is all dramatic as I inch closer and closer to the edge of the force field. Everything goes to slow motion as I'm about to be sliced in half by one of the planes. It's about as tense as things can get, with the ultimate coming down to the wire scenario taking place. 3 inches, 2 inches, 1 inch. And then, if you want to know what happens next, you can't ask me anymore, cause I have no clue. You see, for whatever reason, my brain woke me up right then and there, and I remember thinking to myself, no, you have to stop this dream or else you're gonna spoil The Incredibles 2 for yourself, which I have no clue how I came to that train of thought, because for one thing, I've already seen The Incredibles 2, and for another, that's not how the story goes. Something really weird happened with this dream though, because after I went back to sleep after writing some stuff down, I woke back up still in the same dream, but as if I were transported back like 20 or 30 minutes in the story. I was at this aviation center, and all around me were a bunch of the planes that had come out of the big mothership thingy. And while part of my brain knew that these things were dangerous based on my past dream, my character in the story didn't know that yet. It was like I was exploring enemy territory, going through the bad guy's domain before the big plot twist happens and the whole big reveal that these things are evil. It was kinda as if the third person and first person parts of my character were having a battle with each other. Here's where the dream kinda transitioned though, because a few seconds later, I was no longer in the same dream, but kinda in this different one. So I walk up to this big, wide open clearing, which happens to be surrounded by a ton of trees and a bunch of the planes flying around everywhere. The connection I made to this part was the one area from the original Incredibles movie, but I'm not gonna go into too much detail in case you haven't seen it yet. Go fix that if that applies to you, by the way. I remember walking up to this guy who was all friendly to me. The vibe I got from him was kinda like that hardened war veteran who just had a really good time and wanted to inspire kids to get into the aviation industry. He hands me this mini propeller thingy and asks me which science field I thought was most useful to understanding aviation, and because I didn't really have a good answer, I just said physics, to which he laughed and replied that physics had almost nothing to do with aviation. I don't know how this made sense within the dream, but I guess it did, so I'm just not gonna question it. He then instructed me to hold out the propeller in front of me, and so I did, and as the wind brushed past it, it started spinning ever so slightly. It then quickly picked up speed and I was gradually lifted from the ground. A few seconds later, this gust of wind goes by and I get hoisted up some 10 or 15 feet in the air. Now here's a weird thing about me. I'm not afraid of heights, but if I feel like my life is potentially in danger, then I become afraid of heights. Like, if I'm standing at the edge of a cliff that drops down thousands of feet, but I have a harness on, I'll feel absolutely nothing. But if I don't have the harness on, all of a sudden I'm having a panic attack and curled up in the fetal position. Let's just say I was starting to get that feeling while holding on to the propeller of death. Higher and higher I get, slowly and shakily getting lifted up by this propeller about half my body weight, being powered by nothing but wind. I was terrified now and had pretty much no clue what to do. I'm now about 25 or 30 feet off the ground, and I noticed that the guy from earlier is just kind of sitting there watching with a bemused look on his face. Now that I think about it, it kind of seems like from this perspective that this was the bad guy of the dream. But for whatever reason, that connection didn't really click for me while I was gliding perilously through the air. I don't actually remember how this dream ends, or even if it ended at all, but I do remember seeing this branch of a tree reaching out for me and then going to grab it right before the dream ended. And that's the end of this strange saga of weirdly terrifying dreams I've had. I don't know how I've managed to conjure this weird action movie inside of my head, but if you have any possible interpretation for it, feel free to let me know, or just tell me a weird dream that you've had, because this is honestly my favorite subject. Alright, 3 quick things for this end card. Firstly, and most importantly, the new Discord server is finally up and running, so if you want a place to come by and chill, or even just talk to me directly, it's a pretty good place. Secondly, I ended up doing 5 seconds of research on falling dreams and realized that not everyone gets them, but it's too late now to fix the video, so oh well. A lot of stuff has been happening in my life recently, and things have been pretty chaotic, which is part of the reason this video came out so late, but hopefully everything will clear up. Alright, that's all. Okay, bye.